Okay, what is up you guys? It is me, Настя Shutka, and we are back with another video today. This one actually is from quite a while ago. I think it was from last year, February. That sounds about right. And the reason why I actually haven't done this one for that long is just because I forgot I had footage of it, to be honest with you. But we are going to be doing an interesting piece where I wanted to mash up JOJO and, you know, old school paintings of, you know, like important people, kings, queens, people that used to get their portraits painted. Now, I didn't pick necessarily a specific era. I just kind of wanted to encompass a feeling of importance. And this painting is going to be of my boyfriend. We both wanted to do this. It's just a sort of silly, fun idea. You know how it is as being an artist. Everyone always asks you, please, please do a picture of me, do a picture of me. And so I had that happening constantly. Of, please, when are you gonna paint me? When are you gonna paint me? And I finally caved and was like, I'm only gonna paint you if we come up with an idea that I actually want to do, rather than just me painting you. We came up with the idea of mixing JOJO and those old school paintings together. Now, when I say mixing it with JOJO, I don't mean the art style. What's the correct word even? The flamboyance, the sort of Vogue-esque attitude. So I got my boyfriend to do quite a few poses, you know, the JOJO classics. When we did start the project, we were quite close to the end of our trip. It was a rush job of me having to sketch him, alongside the fact that it was very late in the evening. We decided to just do this. So I don't actually have footage of me sketching because, again, it was live. I didn't even think that I was going to make a video out of it. I thought it was just going to be something funny that I would do quickly. But what ended up happening was we didn't have time. He was tired. And so I took a picture, did the sketch later, finished it, and then I actually started filming the process of me painting it. And that's what I am going to be showing you today. I am going to put the reference that I wanted to use for JOJO. It is the one that I have a poster of in my room, so that's why it really came into fruition that way. Now, I know you haven't seen anything yet, but it would be really amazing if you could like, comment, subscribe, press the notification bell so you know when I'm uploading a video. It would be also amazing if you could share this with your friends and family, just so that we can grow this community slightly larger. But otherwise, guys, let's get on with the video. I'm gonna be very honest. This was a very long time ago, like I said earlier on, so I feel like this voiceover is going to be a little bit all over the place, but we're just going to cruise and see what's up. So currently what I was doing was I was getting a base layer on, and I think I was using India inks for this because I went through a phase in university of doing paintings and using India ink as the base because of its vibrancy. And I think that actually works out quite well every single time in these sort of paintings that I do, because I do end up doing multimedia and I end up bringing some Biro in there. I've done a video very recently. It was my Teletubby video, and I did the same technique. It's just I added some more layering because I think it was watercolor along with markers, but here I just went for straight India ink. I just wanted to get that vibrancy underneath, and then I was going to block it out and darken it with some Biro. And again, if you haven't seen that video already, I do recommend having a look at it. I'm going to pop it just here on this side, because if you want some cursed content for your day, you can definitely enjoy that video. There's not really much going on with technique, really. Again, I'm just doing cell shading. I'm keeping the style of this piece maybe partially realistic, partially stylized. I think that's a better word to say. It's stylized realism, where I'm bringing my influences from my manga and anime drawing days, but I am bringing a bit of that realism in just because I like the mix. I've put my manga drawing days aside. Maybe one day I'll come back to it, but not anytime soon. Now, I really wanted to get this jacket on point. It's a jacket that, it's mine, but with the JOJO theme, I was like, you have to put this jacket on. And especially looking at the poster that I showed earlier, I was influenced by Caesar's outfit. He has like this really cropped blue jacket going on, which is a little bit furry, some furry details on the bottom. And so this jacket channeled that same energy. Different style still, because mine's fully furry and checkered and maybe not as bright, but it was giving the same sort of energy. So I was like, you have to put it on. We have to draw this. It's giving luxury. It's giving flamboyant. We need it in the picture. The other thing that I made my boyfriend put on was also a sash. So let's actually run down the whole outfit. The first thing he's wearing is actually a Gundam shirt. Now, I do think that all the patterns and designs on the Gundam shirt was a little bit too much for this piece. You know, make it too busy, especially because there's a whole checkered furry jacket on top of him. He did not need more going on. So that was the first one. Did a little unbutton, you know, make it a little deep V so that get a bit of sauce. The second thing was just a plain pair of like harem pants, you know, just get the baggy trousers on because, well, if we're going really old school eras, they're doing those like pantaloons, quite tight on the calf, but quite bouncy on the thighs. So I was going for a seated composition. I just thought baggy trousers were going to be way better. And also, again, this was late. I just had to throw on what we had. I was not about to be shuffling through my cupboards trying to find socks to put on the calves to hide the pant bagginess on the bottom. Again, especially with the JOJO style. You know, actually probably really would have banged with the JOJO style. They love a bit of skin tight clothing on my guys. Moving on. Then we added the fur coat, like I said, inspired by my guy Caesar. And then we went for the sash. Now the sash is one of the coolest things in my wardrobe. It's mine again. And it's a sash that I bought to basically Ukrainify one of my suit sets, my pantsuits. So I just thought, let's add that as well because the blue will go really well with the blue of the furry coat. And then we're keeping the shirt and the pants quite dark, purple, black, almost, you know, grape coloured. And then the sash just adds that pop of yellow. Throughout this process, you are just going to see me keep layering onto this painting. Really with India ink, you are just looking to keep layering, especially because it looks really dark when you put it on at first, and then when it dries out, it is like 3 shades lighter than you wanted it to be. And I'm not quite proficient in my use of India inks. It's just something that I use occasionally, so I do mess up those levels sometimes, and I do need to go back and darken things, especially when you add those mid-tones. So here I added an extra shadow color that was between the darkest and the lightest, and it dimmed out the intensity of that cell shading that I wanted to keep, especially because taking some of that influence from JOJO, it's so heavy on the shading. I wanted to keep that essence, and again, just to make it a bit more dramatic, it needed to be darker. I wasn't taking this piece with crazy seriousness. It was just one to enjoy and have some fun with, especially because it was a bit of a random idea and I was doing it for my boyfriend. So I did want it to look really, really good, but I also knew that it was just something fun. And if I messed up, I could probably do it again and make it look better later on. So I wasn't too critical of what I was doing with it. I will say something that I did learn at some point was that you should never do paintings or drawings just flat on the table because your perspective is so skewed and you don't realize it, you know, unless your chair is like high enough to see everything. But every single time I used to draw my pictures, back in the day when I did like manga and stuff, or just when I was practicing actually drawing, if I drew on the table just flat, I would then lift it up and look at it and be like, why the hell is the forehead like 3 times larger than I need it to be, and all my proportions are crap and this looks terrible? And again, questioned my absolute ability in being able to draw. But I then had a teacher tell me to elevate it, at least have it at an angle, not necessarily completely straight, but just slightly tilted. And it just worked so much better. I know that sounds so obvious, and I know that seems like one of the most basic things you should know, but it's something you really just don't think about because it's so much easier to just draw on your desk, you know, or any flat space. It's a bit more annoying to get something set up. Although I definitely will say that this technique works better with really flat pieces. I absolutely do not do this when I'm doing my skateboard pieces. I need that skateboard on the table, my face as close as possible to it, hunched over like a little demon. But it works out in the end, so it's whatever works for anyone really. Now in this clip, the footage is blurry consistently, and as you can see, I'm an amazing camera person, just getting all the shots that the people really give a crap about. You know, forget the art, just look at my damn arm. But actually, in all fairness, let's be grateful for the tattoo artist that made that amazing piece, so thank you so much, Sophie. I will say one thing that I really do struggle with consistently with art is getting the correct skin tone. Now I feel like every single video I do, I always mention something that I struggle with consistently, and yeah, well, that's just, yeah, how it is really. I struggle with a lot of stuff, but the skin color is always something I'm really scared of messing up, especially getting that tonality right. And he definitely has a much richer skin tone than I do, so getting that undertone, getting that warmth is really, really important. And I really tried to mix it around. I worked with, again, the India inks, I added some Copics underneath to really get the color that I wanted, because I knew that I couldn't get the colors with the India ink, at least with my skill set. So I wanted the richness underneath. Then I came back in with some more colors to overlap on it and then add extra shading, because I do like to use a purple as my shadow color. That's what I learned when I used to use Copics all the time, but I don't know if that's, again, everyone's different. I also was very aware of the fact that I was going to come in with Biro later and darken everything that I needed, so I wasn't too worried about the purple or the shadow being as dark as I wanted it to be, because I knew that I was going to bring that out even more later on with the cross hatching and adding some of that texture where I felt like it was missing. Now, I don't really do digital art unless I'm doing mock-ups on my iPad to see what I'm going to do when I actually paint in person. But I will say that I am slightly envious of those people who can actually make really beautiful, smooth digital art. It's something that I've just never been able to do really well. I've always been a traditional art kind of person. And obviously they are both absolutely amazing forms of art. I would never put them against each other. But I will say I adore seeing art where you can see brush strokes or mark strokes or anything like that. Like, you know, when you look at the old school covers of mangas or comics and stuff, and you can literally see that this person colored it in with markers, and you can see that they used pencils. Like, I remember looking at the old Berserk covers, and they are so different to what they looked like later. And obviously he still used traditional modes of rendering, but even seeing the progress in the art style with the markers is just so insane. And another fave just has to be the bleach art. That just continued to look absolutely insane as it went through. And the most recent covers were just beautiful. But everyone knows that Tite Kubo's art style is just gorgeous. That's enough of me glazing about mangaka's art styles, and we're going to be moving on back to mine. So I'm just putting in some extra details. I'm making the fur coat look a little more three-dimensional, and now I'm moving on to the sash. I'm adding all the patterns from the original one in real life. Again, I wanted to keep it quite subtle. There's a lot going on anyway. I am going to outline it later on. But if you know me and you've watched some of my previous content, you'll know that I just have to shove a pattern piece into a piece somewhere. Whether I'm making a pattern piece or I gotta draw it in, it just has to be in there so I can say that I am constantly referring everything back to my roots. I initially was going to leave the pattern unoutlined, but when I looked back at it after I was done, it just wasn't conveying through the piece well enough, and it needed just that tiny bit of outline. I made sure to keep it brown so that it didn't stand out too much. I will admit, I wasn't bothered to do an extravagant background, you know, with a lot of details and items like the old paintings would have had, you know, how royalty had a globe or some sort of pet or something. I really just wanted to keep this simple. And I just wanted to do a nice background. And what was more contrasting to purple and blue and cool tones than warm tones? And in this video, you are really just catching an artist in their true element of mess, with paintbrush in mouth, concentration at its finest, but realizing that after this piece is done, and once I can finally say it's finished, I will have to clean this up myself again. And then restart this entire process when I have to make something new. So, you know, it's just a continuous, endless cycle of mess. And here is the final stretch of the video. We're now moving on to the biro portion, which is always my final step in these pieces. I'm just going to use the biro to pull out any of the areas that I want to make it darker, make anything have a bit more texture, because I do find that with the shading, especially with India inks, again, the colors become quite flat. So even though I've used a darker color, I've used a purple to accentuate those shadows, they're not coming out in the depth that I would need them to. So that biro is just going to pull it out a bit. And after doing this for many years now, I would say that the best biro is still the really crap, cheap ones that you get in like a 50 pack from Tesco or WH Smith. I have so many pens that I've gotten for free that seem bougie, you know, the ones with the whole clicker on the side and everything, and they're like, oh, it glides so nicely. Yeah, no, nothing beats the cheap biro. It just, you know, like, don't try fix something that isn't broken. It works amazingly, and I will stand by those biros because they also last an eternity. I bought a 50 pack when I started secondary school, and I still have the damn 50 pack. I finished school like 5 years ago, dude. But guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so that you know when I'm uploading a video next. You can find me on my socials on Instagram and on TikTok at Shulka Art or Nastya Shulka Art, one of those. And I also have a website, so go check that out as well. But with all of that said, let's finally go to the reveal. But thank you so much for watching this video and sticking around with me, and see you guys next time.